not good. This is really, really not good. Come on. Right folks, today I was meant to do a live stream, and the live stream was supposedly the Rover 45 CVT Milo coming to me for a timing belt and tensioner change with some new camshaft oil seals after all that work that had been done to the car. And the owner said that there had been a massive improvement after the servicing, the new coil pack, after we had a few issues with the windows. But unfortunately we've had a few issues, and since I think around 4 or 5 days after I left, the car started acting up again and losing power. And I'm scratching my head as to thinking, what the hell could it be? It's had a full engine service. There wasn't an initial improvement. The engine was quieter and it was much more better to drive down the road. It was fantastic. It was like a Formula 1 racing car compared with when I first drove the car. However, the owner had a few issues trying to get the car to me. One, the tyres. While the tyres, it just keeps going down, so that held us back a little bit. Secondly, the car not only sounds like a bag of spanners once again, there's been some weird new noises on the gearbox, and it's slow to move off in drive. This is not very good. Oh dear. What have you done, Milo? This is not good. This is not good. There's only really one way of putting it, guys. When I turned up 5 minutes ago, we had several different issues under the bonnet. Firstly, this hose, can you see that bulge? Oh yes, it's gone properly like the one that I replaced. This one is unique to the CVTs and it is leaking, but it's not leaking here. It's leaking here because the hose has clamped down here, and that is a crack. There's been some antifreeze leaking and it has leaked down onto the floor, as you can possibly see on the exhaust manifold. Not good. The coolant level has dropped, but there is still some coolant. If I just squeeze this hot hose, yeah, we've got some coolant at the bottom. So we haven't lost the coolant, we haven't cooked the head. That's not the problem. That's the first thing. Secondly, on driving it down the road, we seem to have a knocking sound, a new knocking sound from the back end of the car. So one of the bushes in while the bottom arms has decided to go, which is quite unusual for 45. They don't usually go in that manner, but that's a very new knocking sound. There's nothing obvious that I can see, so I'm pretty certain that it's one of the bushes. Or it could be a train arm bush that's decided to go. They are the weak point. That is a possibility. The other one, the gearbox. I think we're looking at a dead gearbox, because unfortunately, despite the fact that the gear dipstick is actually completely and utterly obliterated, there's hardly any oil on that. And the oil that I'm getting off that dipstick, yes, it's burnt, it's brown, it's not good. But the reason why it's burned is possibly because of this issue. Yeah, we're not just leaking coolant, we're leaking oil. There is once again an oil leak from this side of the engine bay. It's leaking repulsively between the engine and the gearbox, and I'm afraid I've looked inside there. I'm afraid the fluid that's coming out of this gearbox is from the front seal, where basically the gearbox splines into the drive plate. It's lost its fluid. The gearbox has obviously ran low on fluid, and that has basically caused overheating, and it's burnt the fluid, the rest or the remaining fluid that hasn't come out. And we're getting some very bad rattling sounds from this engine and the gearbox. The engine is still making that whirry sound, but that may have quieted down with the treatment that I used. It has improved. The gearbox, dead gearbox. So we've got this problem, and this, you may not, I don't think I bought one of the last ones, and they're about 70 quid from Rimmer Brothers. Gearbox, we got a dead gearbox on our hands, and that's big job. It's one that I can do, but again, it's a totting up process. We've got a tyre here that it just keeps uninflating. Obviously, we've got a bit of welding that probably needs to be done at some point there. We've got the knocking at the back end. We've got the back bumper that looks like this. I think you know where I'm going when I say this, guys. As much as I like to save and thought that I could save this car for this owner and this family who've had it for 6 years, but this car is just not reliable no more. And it's not been reliable for you, has it? Not at all. No, not at all. And that's what you want. Not since May. And that's a real shame, because a Rover 45 with this many issues, it's quite rare. It's really rare, and they're totting up all over the place. And I think we've got to the point now where we're just deciding enough's enough. I mean, look, 70 quid, probably a couple £100 for the gearbox change, plus that obviously with fitting it. We haven't even got down the route of timing belt, but that's all been paid for, but it's just a case of fitting it. Tyres, we've got a mysterious knocking at the back end, which I do believe is a train arm bush. I'm going to take you around the back here. Got a feeling that does not look very healthy. And I can't really see this one. Yeah, it's just perished and cracked, but I've got a feeling that that one is knocking from that side. So yes, sadly I think Milo is a car that's just too far gone, and my recommendation is getting another 45, because you can get another 45. I mean, the owner's not bothered about whether it's a manual or automatic, and she's now considering getting another car because of this. But you know how much even a second-hand car would cost. I mean, we're talking a budget of £1,000, maybe up to 1,500 maybe. That doesn't get you a lot, but it will get you a good Rover 45, and I've recommended that, so it's there, and that's my piece. But as much as I want to sort of save a car like this, it's not ideal. There is a point where you just cut your losses. We're about £250 to £300 in for parts and paying me for my petrol to come out and sort the car out. I mean, it's very minimal. But I would say we're at the stage now where do we keep throwing money at something where we know that there's at least 500, 600 quid's worth of parts that need to be done. All these cars have got to this age now where this may be possible, but when we're talking about gearbox failure, that changes the ball game a little bit. All the other issues are niggity, stupid issues, but that changes the game entirely. So yeah, I think there's only one way that I can demonstrate how bad things are. Let's go down the road. So we're literally going to go probably 100 yards. Starts okay, and things are like quite nice, but put it into reverse first. I can hear bearing rumbling, I can hear a lot of things going on here. I do believe that, you hear that? That is the gearbox. Put in neutral. Put the window up. Drive. That is a more severe sound of what we were getting before. I had a feeling the first time I turned up it may be the gearbox. There's always been a question mark over that, and I think we can confirm that it is because of this. Oh, it's struggling to pull away. And we have a knocking badly from that side. Very wary of taking this too far. Oh, it's gone slow. There we go. Yeah, that's not good. Right, we're going to have to do a turn. Oh, dearie me, it won't reverse. Not very good. Can I make it back up that hill? This is what happens. I've got a feeling that that is slipping. This is not good. This is really, really not good. Come on! Oh, flipping heck. We've made it to the next lay-by. Right, let's rest. That gearbox is slipping because there's just no fluid in it. Shaking. This is what we call car abuse. Come on! Oh, there's a bloody car. We can't proceed. God, this is like a slipping clutch. It's so bad. Oh no. Oh, we got going. And then I now need to get out and ask the owner how the hell she drove this car 6 miles to me. It was what happens with the gearbox when they basically have no fluid in them. A slipping clutch. I always had a suspicion that the gearbox may have been responsible for quite a few things. Now we can kind of confirm that this gearbox is a dud. The infamous Rover CVT gearbox has lived up to its name completely in this example. Well, no, it hasn't. It's done 112,000 miles and it has only just had a CVT fluid change. And my initial impression is one thing. Whatever I did, looking back now, it wouldn't have made a difference. The damage to this gearbox had already happened before I turned up for part 1. And that's the sad truth. But we gave it a go. We tried, and that's the main thing. You've got to try these things. But I think now this is where we call it a day with this gearbox and potentially with this car, because there's just too many things that are wrong with it. I think if we didn't have the knocking, maybe it was a bit more solid in the bodywork department, then I would be saying let's change the gearbox, because then we know where we stand. But we've still got engine oil leaks from suspicious areas, possibly the rear crank seal. We're getting fluid mixing, CVT fluid mixing with engine oil in that area. It's a disaster. These gearboxes are not known for oil leaks, but they can go in certain areas, and the only reason why they leak through the front oil seal is because there is play in the actual oil pump bushings. That may be because the bearing was starting to go like I suspected, but there was not enough evidence to conclude, especially when I opened up the gearbox, that anything was going on. So sadly, yeah, we got there just too late for the gearbox. And for Milo, no idea. But anyway, we will let you know what's going on with this car. For now, for Milo, it might be curtains. We don't know. I'm going to leave that up to the owner, and we're going to have a little talk about the pros and the cons. And this is where everybody who has been in this position before has to weigh up whether it's ready to just move it on, get something better or not. Me and the owner, we're just sat here giggling because we're sitting here waiting to just sit with her, discussing things over. We're waiting for the RAC man to turn up to tow this back home. There's only been scrap metal, man, that I've just pulled up in a van and said scrap metal, looking at the car with the bonnet open. Honest to God, you haven't even got it home and people want to scrap it. Oh, Jesus. Take care, guys. And put your opinions in the comments on whether this car should be scrapped and the owner should get another one or repair, because sitting on the fence a little bit.